Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of On Point. And boy, has it been a while. And sorry about the big gap since hunting season. Had a really long pity party, basically. And I'm back at it. We're going to be uploading all the time again on YouTube and on the podcast. So hopefully you guys are ready for a lot of content coming your way. So I have a lot of big plans and a lot of exciting things that I want to get done this year, and I'm just looking forward to sharing it with you guys as well. If you have things that you want me to cover this year, or if you have things that you want me to touch on, let me know. I am happy to do requests, and I'm happy to talk about what you guys want to hear about. So one quick thing before we get started here is I want to give a shout out to some guys that really wanted me to start publishing more episodes again, and really had a lot of kind words and stuff. And that's Dirty Mike and the boys over at Rears Manufacturing. When I say Dirty Mike, I mean Josh and his coworkers there. Apparently, they're really like the podcast, and they basically told me to get my butt in gear and start uploading more often. So thanks guys for listening. Thanks for the positive words, and all of you guys out there that have been checking in on me, making sure everything's cool because I haven't been uploading. I've just been a lazy piece of crap. So outside of that, we're going to be back at it. We're going to be uploading all the time, and this episode is going to start us back off with AJ from Knights of the Apex. And I forgot to ask him what that was all about, but he's got a good YouTube channel and good content, great content for pictures and just showing products off like that. He takes some really good high-quality content videos and pictures and stuff. So really knowledgeable, sets up a lot of bows, works on a lot of bows, and he seems pretty unbiased. And where he does have biases, he's willing to let you know. So I respect that a lot. Had a great time talking to him about the 2021 lineups for this year's flagship bows for 3 or 4 manufacturers. And I apologize about not being able to shoot all these before talking about them. This year, as you guys know, COVID, all that crap has really made getting bows and getting your hands on bows a little bit more difficult. So manufacturers are kind of doing their own thing right now. So outside of that, guys, appreciate you for listening, and I will see you at the end of the episode. Bye. This thing rolling, man. What do you say?
Sounds good, man.
So give me your elevator sales pitch real quick. Tell everybody who you are, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I'm AJ from Knights of the Apex. I started an Instagram page a couple of years ago. Just a normal guy. Was tired of relying on other people to set up my bows. When I was going out into the woods, started working on my own stuff and just kind of sharing the experiences as I went. And then through that, I really found I had a passion for the photography side of it, and just taking pictures of different gear and talking about it, and just BSing with guys around the world about the equipment and stuff that we like. And the page just kind of grew from there. And now we've got some relationships with different companies. We're coming out with some original products, which is kind of like a surreal thing. It's just been really cool. The community around it, the bow hunting communities, it's the best. So to be able to connect with guys, as far away as Australia, Austria, South Africa, it's so great. So, and it's cool because you get to learn a lot more that way. So it's been really cool. And now, we've got a YouTube channel as well. It's been really, really cool.
You say across the world, it's funny. Australia and Africa have been like hot spots. They hunt year round over there, and they don't really have seasons. So maybe that's the deal. I don't know.
Yeah, and they're savages, man. Like those guys are on another level as far as like toughness is concerned. Like it's I'm down in Florida, so it's kind of like a watered down version of Australia. We don't have the same level of snakes and reptiles trying to kill you, but those guys are awesome to talk to. They're really, really tough hunters down there.
Yeah, and the fact that they get to do it 24/7. Over here we have seasons and all that stuff, and we don't have pigs and a population that you can go out and find regularly. I mean, there's the Loch Ness monster of pigs in Oregon that's somewhere down in southeast Oregon, and it's like, where are they? I've never seen them. Actually, I did. I had a dream like 2 nights ago that we found pigs in Oregon.
Oh, really?
I swear to God, yeah. I just bringing that up reminded me of that. I was like, wait, I had that dream. There was like 4 or 5, and they're all like 30 or 40 pounders. But I'm like freaking out because I saw my first Oregon wild pig. But
Man, Florida's like Narnia. You got to come down here, dude. You never know what you're going to run into because you don't know like who's got what kind of animals people have illegally. There's rumors there's axis deer running around now, like all sorts of crazy stuff. So you never know what you're going to run into here.
That's funny. We have some axis deer and some Asian deer. I don't even know if I could pronounce the name, but somebody hit one with their car last year, and I got a picture of it, and it looks like almost like a roe deer, but it's like this weird Asian deer. Then we have Sitka, or excuse me, axis deer over there in a small town called Powers, and it's just people raise them and then they get out, and then that's another Bigfoot of the hunting industry, or the hunting industry over here is like, oh, you can go find them on public where they escape. Same thing with Owdad over towards the dish chutes. It's like good freaking luck, man. Like I don't know, but anyways, well, today we're talking about bows, so. Let's go ahead and dive into this thing. And for your YouTube channel, I just want to give you a shout out on here, just personally. Your videos are really high quality and just a really good production value. And so it's almost like on the complete other end of the spectrum. I've always said that like my viewers have come to expect low quality but hopefully good info. So I'm trying to up my quality, but I'm still not even scratching where you're at.
Well, I think that's the cool thing is like we can all support each other and we've all got a different style that either connects with different people or brings value in different ways. So like I don't do as much of like you do a great job of doing the objective speed tests and giving feedback. I'm definitely a little bit more like I try to be like a little more on the kind of like different angles of the gear and I'm definitely a little more emotional when I'm talking about stuff. So I'm a little less, I lay it all on the table, any conflicts of interest I might have, but I think that's just kind of how I am with stuff. So it is cool because when guys are like, oh, well, what about speed tests? I'm just like, hey, go check out On Point and Garrett Weaver because that dude's has way more patience and is going to do a better job than I am. So that's just not my thing.
Well, I appreciate that. From the beginning, I'm like, man, if I could just like not bullshit people and come out with objective, just here's what the bow's doing, here's what the manufacturer claims it does, and here's what it really does. Here's what it should feel like according to the manufacturer. Here's what it really feels like. And another important thing, and I'm sure you can attest to this, is I get guys. Even on this year's Matthews, I had a good buddy who went up and had a bad experience shooting the Hoyt. And then we were in a group text, and it was Chris Dunlap, and me and Austin were all texting. And Austin's like, man, the one I shot felt amazing. And then, I'm like, well, Chris is like, maybe mine wasn't tuned, or something. Something's going on here. And so, because that can cause some extra vibration and jumpiness and just make the bill feel like crap, honestly. And so I shot mine the next day, and I'm like, I'm with Austin. This thing feels great. Fantastic bow. And then Chris shot another one and ended up ordering it after he shot one that was tuned. So
well, and you have to pay attention. Because I think the value, right, in YouTube and just being aware of stuff like that is like just to pay attention to that. I remember one time, like, the shop just forgot they adjusted the cam for my draw length, but they forgot to adjust the limb stop. So there was no valley to the bow, right? So I had the same issue. I just kept bouncing off of the back wall right there. And that's such an easy thing to just forget. And if you don't know any better, you would just think, oh, well, this bow's a piece of crap, right?
Right.
So I think, you got to take that account. And I tell everybody, like, go shoot every bow. Because there's no garbage bows anymore. Like there's no like we're really picking hairs here. Like when we're talking about like, oh well, this bow vibrates more. It's because they're all at such a high level.
Right.
Like I love when guys still use the term hand shock. I'm like, no hunting bow has hand shock anymore. Like it's got some vibration, but if that's shock to you, then just maybe stay out of the woods because it's an uncomfortable, scary place, and it might be too much for you, but. They're all so good now.
100% agree. If you came out with any one of these bows 7 years ago, it would be bow of the year. And across any of the brands, you would have bow of the year. Across, it don't matter. You could have a PSE, take that PSE 7 years ago. That would be, this year's Expedite.
Yep.
Bow of the year. It don't matter. It's just we're and I say that all the time. In my videos, it's like I'm sure people are getting tired of hearing it. I'm like, guys, we are like. So picking hairs and just trying to like these bows are so freaking identical. First of all, I don't know how many people could even tell the difference. Your shit's got to be absolutely tuned to be fair and objective.
Yep.
And you have to shoot the same arrows through the chronograph at the same distance. You have to use the same chronograph. You know, like there's so many little things that guys get hung up on. And I have, my shop has 2 chronographs here. And I was wanting to use this Caldwell one. It's a little bit nicer. And it was shooting 4 to 5 feet per second faster than the Pro Chrono was. And but the Pro Chrono has the plug-in for the light thing, so it can read inside better. And so the Caldwell wasn't reading very good or consistent, and then finally it just showed error. And so I was like, screw it, I'll just use the Pro Chrono. And I just ended up going with that, and I just went with those speeds. But it was like, I know people are going to be pissed because they're gonna use a different chronograph, and then I'm like, oh well, yours is slow, you know, like what's going on here? And then a lot of them, I don't know if you run into this. Well, you don't do speed tests, so so I'll tell you one thing that you're missing right now is all the archery calculator guys.
Oh yeah.
It's like, well, your archery calculator doesn't take in consideration arrows, I think, above like 450 grains or 470 grains or something like that, because efficiency goes up, my friend, and your calculator isn't taking that in consideration.
So I made the very big mistake of not explaining myself. I criticized when Bowtech released their specs for the SD. I made the mistake of I said it seemed a little slow. Now that was even for me scaling up, taking into account that it's only 28.5, right? Even when I scaled up, I thought it was still just a couple feet off the pace, which I thought was weird for a bow that they were advertising for short draw guys, right? Because I know, like, I'm a 28.5 inch. I know a lot of 27-inch guys. They all want longer. They want faster speeds because they want to shoot heavier arrows. They got little draw lengths, right? We got these T-Rex arms. It's just hard enough to get kinetic energy. So I thought that was a little slow, but I didn't explain even when you scale up. So like immediately I got ripped apart. Guys were like, dude, it's only 20.5 inches. They test bows at 30 inches. Like it was brutal. But I like, you get very, like, every company's got their guys that are very passionate and emotionally invested in it. So right. I do respect that. But yeah, you have to take so many little things into account when you're testing these bows. And I think it pays to like almost go in, shoot them, take like a day or two, go back and shoot them again, you know, because I know I had that experience with, you know, if you want to jump into the bows, the Hoyts this year. I shot the RX5 one day, and then I shot the Ventum 33 the next day, and they had very different feels to me. And the RX5, you know, this was the first year that I've been shooting that PSC Expedite a lot, which is a 33-inch axle bow, and I think I've gotten used to having that longer axle to axle. Even though, you know, every bow that I've owned up until this point has been 31 inches or below. And that 30-inch RX5, even though I'm a huge Hoyt fan, just felt, maybe it's the new binary cams, it just felt a lot less stable than the Hoyts had in the past. But that Ventum 33, on the other hand, felt pretty rock solid. It felt really, really good. And I'm comparing it to, there's a buddy's RX4 hanging up behind me that I just put 80-pound limbs on. So like, you know, there's always a Hoyt around that I'm shooting. I'm pretty familiar with them. It's just so like, and that was something I know in your speed test, you found that through the modules, right? You were getting different efficiencies depending on the draw lengths, which was something I found as well.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah. After I posted that, there's quite a few guys apparently. If you're, you know, I watch a few people's videos, and so turns out there's a lot of guys that do that because they're like, well, so-and-so had the same results. I'm like, well, okay, that makes me feel better. So
no,
yeah.
I found that. Yeah. The Ventum 33. So it was, you know, I shot the RX5 at 20.5 inches with, it was like a 430 grain arrow. And then the Ventum 33 was 29 inches. Cause then you would have to change the mod, right? So you're only talking a half inch. So the speeds should have been still lower for the 33 going off the stats, but it ended up being 15 feet per second faster. I was shooting with a 430 grain arrows, 300 feet per second with that Ventum 33. So, which is like, I was like, that's impressive. Like that was really good. Whereas in the low 280s with the RX5 and it had, when I couldn't figure out why. And then when you do more research, the mods and looking back, I remember that was one thing that, you know, when I was buying Hoyts I was shooting a lot of Hoyts back in the day, and I always had that issue because 28.5, I was always between their cam options, and I always had to choose, did I go with the smaller cam, which was more efficient but less stable, or go with the bigger cam, which was less efficient but just felt much more stable at full draw. It was always that toss up for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember when I got a hold of a few Hoyts one year, and one I posted about it, and I'm like, talking about, this bow's slower than it should be, and he's like, well, you're shooting the bottom of the cam. I'm like, okay, well, the Hoyt got a hold of me, and they're like, hey man, just so you know, you shot this on a 3 cam, you probably should have shot it on a 2. I'm like, well, you guys send out practically all your Hoyts every year with number 3 cams, so get us a number 2 and I'll do it. And I did, and the speeds were couple feet per second faster on that number 2 cam, and it's just basically you're just shooting the bottom end of a cam versus shooting the top end of a cam. You're going to get more performance out of shooting the cam where it has the most. That's where it's designed, is to shoot at the top there. And so it just, the thing with the mods, and I think I said that in my video, and I hadn't watched anybody's video yet, and then apparently everybody had already tested that idea out, and I had no idea, but I'm glad to see that other people are testing that out as well. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yep.
Yeah,
that was one thing, because I was hoping when they went to the new cam design, that was something that they were going to work out, because that's something that, like, a couple of years ago, I was willing to make that trade-off, right? Because the Hoyt had other things that other bows didn't really have. But now every other brand has modular cams where they don't have those same dips and efficiencies. Like every other, you're talking maybe 2-3 feet per second, depending on where you're at, like off of the pace, but they're pretty consistent throughout the cam module. So I was really surprised that that Hoyt wasn't able to figure that out with the new cam system. That was a little that seemed a little odd and off for them, but I was shocked by that.
If you ask them, they solved that issue, and so because back when I was looking at the videos,
weird.
I'm like, this is the exact opposite what you guys are claiming, man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like Hoyt and Vortex optics are way too good at advertising.
Yeah, and look, I'm a Hoyt, like, and the funny thing with Hoyt is, like, I'm a Hoyt fanboy at heart. Like, I grew up with my dad shooting Hoyts. Like, I always, like, almost idolized them. When I first got, like, real into bow hunting after college, it was when, Cam Haynes, Dudley, all the top guys were just emerging on social media, and, like, it seemed like everybody was crushing it. Yeah. I think guys are still killing world record deer or world record animals with those carbon matrix bows that came out back in 2012, 2013. Like, that bow's still around. So, I always hold them in really high regard, and talking to other Hoyt, like, fans, they've just been disappointed that they kind of feel like what they've been asking for has been ignored. And I kind of get that, because, like, with the RX5, like, it's very dead in the hand, felt very smooth. Like, it was nice, but it's still $500 more expensive than the next bow. And now, yes, it's carbon, but it weighs the same as the aluminum bows. So other than that warm to the touch feeling, there's no advantage to having the carbon anymore. And that was a strange, and I've talked to some bows, which I think is strange, because, like, and Bowtech has said this before too, like, everybody would have a carbon bow if they could. And I don't buy that, because, I mean, you look at the pro staff guys, like, they can have whatever bow they want. A lot of them still opt for the aluminum models. I think, like PSE, one thing they kind of recognize is the carbon is kind of a niche. Like, you either value that weight savings and that warmth to the touch thing, and you're willing to spend that extra money because, whoever you are, you're hiking in the backcountry and it's freezing, or whatever the case may be, or you just really like carbon bows. But it's not for the majority. Whereas Hoyt, it kind of seems like they're a little more the opposite mentality. Like, no, you really want this carbon bow, and their aluminum models tend to be more, I won't call them afterthoughts, because they're always really good bows, but they don't advertise them near as much as the carbon models, it seems.
Yeah, well, I'll echo that, and I got on the carbon train with the RX1 turbo. I wanted a turbo, and I wanted an RX1, and that is the first bow that turned me back around to shooting an actual turbo model, because everything before that wanted to rip my arm off out of the socket at full draw. Everything was just so aggressive before that, to me anyways. And And so just it was lighter. I wanted a lighter bow for going backcountry and stuff. And honestly, I wanted carbon and I was willing to pay for it. That's just straight up what it was. And a lot of guys are asking me, what's the benefit to it? I'm like, warm to the touch in cold weather, like you said, and slightly lighter. But this year, where's that weight?
Yeah.
There's really, and to me, a lot of the aluminum bows that I shot compared to the carbons, I like the aluminum bows better. They felt better. They felt, just to me, I could shoot them better. And that is a total preference thing there. But
yeah,
I'm just, if and I've said this many, many, many times, if I'm going to pay $600 more for a bow or whatever it may be now, and basically the same version of that bow, is it 60, is it 50% better or is it 60% better? Because you're charging 50% more, 60% more. So show me the extra value there. And then if you really base your decision off of that, I don't think you would ever buy a carbon bow because you're not getting any more speed, any more, in my opinion, any more shootability. You're just getting a different risered bow. And, it kind of has that, it's a carbon, look at me kind of thing. And I don't even think Cameron Haynes right now is shooting a carbon bow. And I don't think he did last year either. I might be wrong on that. But he went back to aluminum. And, I have a feeling that, if that's where carbon's going, to where it's going to be literally this almost the same specs across the board, like they already are, and now you're losing the weight factor, I think they're shooting themselves in the foot. And if you're really wanting to go a carbon bow, PSE has the carbon bow right now. Because basically what Bowtech did this year is they rehashed their carbon Night or carbon Icon or whatever it was.
Yeah, but they kind of packaged it in like an affordable bow price point.
They did. And the riser sure as heck looks very, 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 very familiar. And
it's the same one. Let's be real.
Yeah. I'm trying to be nice, but, and I live, an hour and 20 minutes from Bowtech. So, I should go up there and just shoot it. But to me, it just seems like a lot of these guys are just rehashing bows. If you look at some of the cams, the RPM 360 cam, I think looked almost identical or did look identical to the Realm SS or the SR6. That's what it is, SR6. And like the cams, I think I'm getting my models right. They looked identical, and all they did was add like a little bit of a weight into the cam. And if you can talk to that, maybe expand.
Yeah, which and because I know like guys had different takes on this, right? Like I don't have a problem with companies keeping things year after year. Like PSE, they won me over when they went to the Evolve cam, and
100%.
In my mind, they don't need to change it. Like Hoyt, when they had their DFX cams on the Defiant series, I loved that cam. The Matthew, I know it was slow, it was not efficient, but it was just so smooth. And Matthews, right? Matthews, I almost put in a different category because if those bows feel so different than the other bows, like you either love the Matthews or you don't, but you're not. It's kind of hard. Like if you're a diehard Matthews guys, it seems like it's hard for those guys to kind of move to other bows. Whereas, guys that shoot a Prime or a Hoyt or a PSE, it's easier for them to kind of transition year to year. But like they stuck with their cross-center cam. They made small tweaks to it. I don't have an issue with that either. I think Hoyt gets ripped on because like you said, and even Bowtech to a certain degree, they remarket the same technology, or they make small tweaks to it and pretend it's a completely new thing, which I think is a little disingenuous. Like we all know better.
Hoyt's really bad at that.
Yeah.
Straight up. Hoyt's probably the worst at just saying we proprietary this and brand new technology that. I'm like, dude, that's not brand new technology. I don't know.
I know. Bowtech's had a binary cam for, who knows how long. And those, the Bowtechs, when I shot the RX-5, I shot the Bowtechs the same day, and I was expecting to be wowed with the Hoyt just because, again, right, Hoyt fanboy, and whatever about the Bowtechs. I liked the Bowtechs. I thought, they caught up on speed a little bit. They were still slightly off the pace from like everybody else that's kind of advertising in that 345 range. But I thought the bows, they felt nice. They were dead in the hand. They were quiet. And they don't hold the way that like I personally prefer, but that's again, grip and all that stuff, that's all personal preference.
100%.
That comes down to the shooter. But I thought Bowtech, they did a good job this year. I think the solution is going to be a winner, and their lineup's a little different from everybody else's because they kind of give you like different packages versus everybody else kind of gives you the same bow in different sizes. So it's a little bit of a different style, you know. But and I think Bowtech too, they probably get a bad rap because they've had some issues with consistency over the years, and you know they lost that lawsuit I think last year to Matthews or whatever it was, and so they've had a couple of like egg on their face kind of moments. But I mean overall, I liked the bows when I shot them this year.
I feel like they've been chasing the Realm X since they came out with the Realm X, man, because those things are still going for
That's fair.
$650, $700, and that's, in my opinion, one of the best bows ever made for hunting. That's probably, out of any manufacturer, that's got to be in my top 5. I mean, that was a sweet bow, and the reason it goes for so well is it had really good speeds, very shootable, good ATA. Everything was there for that bow. I don't even know if it won Bow of the Year. I don't remember. I really don't care because I think a lot of that's paid for. But
yeah, I'd agree with you.
Yeah. So in my opinion, you know, if you look back a few years, that bow's still going for $600 used, and it's how old?
Yep.
I don't know how old it is. It's pretty old, and I feel like they've been chasing that. You know, the rehashed Revolt X. You know, with the cam lock. That's basically a Realm X with a cam lock, and it's 5 feet per second slower or whatever it was. You know, it's just. And if I was so inclined, because I have buddies that'll tune, and my weak area is pressing bows and cam swaps and all that stuff. I just haven't had the time or the resources to really get as good as you guys are at it, because you work on all of them, and I really respect that. So you know the cam lock for me, coming from a more of a simpleton in that area, is really appealing.
Yes.
Because I think that was the best thing that happened to bows last year. Was it 2 years ago, or last year? I forget. But the cam lock is one of the best things that's happened to bow hunting in a long time for guys wanting to work on their own crap, because you don't have to have a bow press. You really don't have to know pretty much what you're doing. You can YouTube a video and figure it out. I mean, I did one in 20 minutes on the range with a buddy. I did a video on that, and it was the easiest bow I've ever had to tune. I tuned. They showed up at the bow shop, and I tuned them both versions of that bow in 15 minutes. I had both bows shooting bullet holes. It was like 2 bows in 15 minutes shooting bullet holes. It's that easy. No bow press needed.
I agree. And tunability, right? Like putting that tunability in the end user's hands seems to be where everyone's going. And before we like totally let Hoyt off the hook, we still haven't talked about the fact that vibration dampener looks like a dick on the front of the bow, but I'm gonna let that go. But that was my biggest question was, you know, your Bowtech has a binary cam, Hoyt has a binary cam, but Bowtech has that cam lock, Hoyt doesn't. So the only way, and their cable guard's not adjustable. So now the only way to tune that bow is with the spacers if you want to get a center shot, or the rest, right? Which, you know, like spacers, nobody likes spacers. Like nobody likes working with spacers. PSE introduced their new yoke tune system this year for that reason, right? Nobody, you know, Matthews has their top hats, different companies, they're all coming out with solutions for it. So I was, you know, that's my one big question is how does those Hoyts tune? Because if you're dealing with spacers, you know, and they better have those spacer kits in dealers' hands, because you're dealing with eclipse and spacers. It's a pain in the ass. I don't care who you are. I just did a limb swap today. And you know, I've gotten pretty good at them, but it's still a pain in the ass. I still need to call my wife over to help me because the spacer is smaller than the limbs are, and you need 4 hands to do it. It is a pain in the ass, no matter how you cut it.
Right. Well, we'll go back to Hoyt and finish that off real quick. I hear a lot of guys saying, oh, they copied this, they copied that, Matthews. And honestly, I see more PSE in it than anything. But I personally really don't give a shit. I don't give a shit because everybody steals from everybody. And if you want to be fair, Darton, you know, like the pioneers. Like
I'm so happy you said that. Yes.
So I don't know how many patents they have, but probably they have the most. I don't know. I'm talking to my ass there, but I mean, really, everybody uses a lot of Darton technology, and I imagine they're probably paying for it. So I don't want to get too deep in that because I'm not very, very intelligent in that area, but I'm pretty damn sure Darton is the leader in that area. If you're wanting to come and say, I came out with that first, you'd be pointing your finger at Darton.
Yeah, and I wish I knew more. There's a Darton pro shooter in my local shop, and I wish I knew more about him, but that's you know, I'm going to have to pick his brain because I'm sure they're going to have some big moves coming in the next couple of years with Black Eagle purchasing them. But you mentioned PSC, and I had the same. To me, the Hoyts seemed like they borrowed a lot from a lot of different designs, which again, I'm cool with that too. And everybody claims that every year, right? Like, I think it's unfair when you just do that to one company, because you could look at the V3 this year and say, well, the riser, those arches look like the Axios last year, right? You could pull out any boat any year. My Expedite this year, part of the reason I love it is because it reminds me of the Pro Defiant from a couple of years ago, right? Like,
Yeah.
to me, that's still, that and buckskin is one of the hottest bows ever. But yeah, like going over to PSC, like I still haven't shot the EVL. I'm psyched for it. I've had the Expedite since October now. And you were talking about like the speeds and things like that, and I loved the NXT series last year. This bow has made it really difficult for me to get hyped about other bows, because it's a speed bow in a lot of people's mind, but it still has the same evolve cam, so it still has the same draw as the rest of the PSE lineup. The only real difference is the riser design is a little stiffer and a little more stable, but it's shorter. So it kind of sits in between the 31 and the 33, like the NTN or the NXT models. But it's got a 5.5-inch brace height, which intimidates a lot of people. 28.5 inches, that's my draw length. I haven't noticed any drop off compared to my NXT 31 last year. So for me, like I'm shooting a 450 grain arrow. I'm getting 295 feet per second. And then right now I'm shooting a heavier arrow. It's 530 grains and I'm getting into 270. So like for me, like once you get used to that speed, it's been hard for me to let that go.
Mm-hmm.
But I am psyched for the EVL, because I think that the changes they made with the wider limbs, that new yoke tune system, I'm interested to see like how that translates. Because the one thing with the PSEs is they've gotten criticized last year for being a little slow and a little loud for how slow they were. So I'm interested to see how that EVL shoots. That Expedite is on par with everybody else noise wise. I haven't noticed a difference, but I don't think PSE was ready for how popular that bow was going to be, talking to him, because a lot of people have been trying to pick that thing up.
The Expedite?
Yeah.
I wish that they had a few problems last year. I think they had a fire at the factory and stuff, and that really screwed their Mach 1. I think Mach 1 would have been a lot bigger if they could get it in people's hands. I know they had manufacturing issues. They probably still have manufacturing issues. And then they had a little bit of an issue with the cable guard rolling over on you. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but the cable slide, basically the mount was it would move over on you because all the tension would push it back over and it would unscrew itself, kind of thing.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't had that issue. I know that was one of the things that concerned Dudley when he made the changes to his NTN model.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't had an issue with the cable guard moving on me.
I've seen it on quite a few.
Interesting.
Yeah, the ones at the shop. I had a buddy. He's like, "Hey, go to your shop and wiggle those PSC cable guards." I'm like, all right. He's like, so let me know what you find. And then I shot a few of them, and then I started dinking with them, and then I'm like, oh shit, they're pretty freaking loose. And so I got a hold of a friend that works there, and I'm like, hey, can you tell somebody that maybe we need to reverse thread these things so your cable's making it tighter instead of pushing against the simple fix. I don't know how simple that would be, but something needs to get fixed here, because Dudley saw that and he called it, and he was right. Kudos to him about that. But I saw quite a few of that, and I heard quite a few stories of those coming loose, and that was one of my favorite bows from last year.
I wonder if that's just out of the factory too, that they're just not cranking those things down enough.
I have no idea.
Because I've only set up my own and I haven't had that, but I also am OCD with when I get anything new, whether it's a sight or a rest, I crank down all the screws out of the factory. So I don't know if I almost wonder. I kind of want to hit up my guy over at PSC and see what's up with that. But yeah, I'm with you. Either that reverse thread, that's probably a simpler solution. I was thinking, one thing I said is kind of like having teeth. So it kind of grabs, so you're locking it into position like a lot of kind of scope turrets and things like that have. But I think that would be a fix. But I mean, I think they're doing a pretty good job. It seems like they're picking up more pace. The one thing with PSC the last couple of years before they got Dudley was I don't think they got the exposure that they really deserve. Their marketing, and I think Pete Shipley actually said that in interview with Dudley that, looking back, he should have put more of a focus on marketing. Because the last couple of years, up until really last year, it seemed like, it was always Hoyt, Matthews, and then, Prime was kind of in that third spot, like coming up. And then, this year, I know I've seen more PSEs than I ever have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if maybe I'm just paying attention more, but like Total Archery Challenge, I've never seen that many PSEs, and even stuff I get tagged in now.
Yeah, well, I can tell you right now, I have surveys on my YouTube channel, and they picked up probably 5% of the market just this year, just in my own little, controlled study. Bowtech and PSE both gained. And Hoyt lost a little bit this year, even though I think they came out with a better bow this year, which is really weird.
But I think the thing with Hoyt too is it's interesting because you can tell, like, with the vibration dampener and everything, they're chasing Matthews, but I think they almost have to be more afraid of who's coming up behind them than who they're chasing. Because I do think guys that aren't impressed with, or maybe don't like certain things that they're doing, it's like, for me, it was a very easy move to go from Hoyt to PSE. I'm sure that's why Dudley did it too, because the PSEs feel maybe just a little smoother than the Hoyt, but very similar, right? The grip is very similar on the Hoyt, the balance, everything. It's not a crazy difference to go from one to another. The Bowtech's a little bit of a different system, but yeah, that's interesting because I'm really interested to see how things shake out this year, like sales wise, because I think everybody's kind of all over the place, and people wanted Hoyt to do something different, and they definitely did this year.
They did, and I said this in the videos. Like, I think somebody kind of had a come to Jesus meeting with Hoyt and their design team and said, "Hey, we're coming out with a bow that's louder than everybody else's, that has more vibration than everybody else's, and is probably about slower, or isn't definitely leading the pack in speed wise, but we're falling behind here, and they've been falling behind since the Halon came out. I mean, yeah." Because that's when I think Matthews pulled ahead. That bow, I mean, they're still riding that Halon dick of a platform. It's just, I'll start bagging on Matthews here. But, I want to finish off Hoyt real quick. So Hoyt, you mentioned the bottom stabilizer, the shortstop, whatever they call it. And they have that kind of shock dampeners that Matthews has on the bottom, which kind of mimic the 360 harmonics or whatever they call them, and yeah, that's pretty darn similar. But if you really look at the cam, just to finish this off, if you look at the cam and you look at the let off, it's like that is a PSE let off. I mean, I think they got that out of the same factory.
Yes, yeah, that adjusts, except it's missing a position. You can only do 80 or 85. Yeah.
I was wondering, I'm like, are you guys saving that 90% for next year, or why didn't you guys just do, maybe with the cam design it wouldn't go, but I'm like, why didn't you guys just do a 90%?
I should have tested this, because I know on the PSEs I don't lose any efficiency swapping between the let-offs, because you're changing a little on the draw length.
Neither do I.
I didn't test that on the Hoyt. I should have, looking back.
That would be really interesting to have a PSE, and because I'm like, why would I shoot 80 when I can get the same speed out of 90 and I can still execute good with my hinge at 90? Like, I think I ended up at 85 just because I shoot 85 well, but I typically do pull pretty hard into the back wall, so I had it on 80 for a while, and then I chronoed it. I'm like, this doesn't really make sense, like I'll go back up to 80, 90, or 85 or 90 and just play around up there. But I was really kind of disappointed because I thought I'd pick up 5 to 7 feet per second going down to 80 from 90, and it just wasn't there. It just shows you how efficient that cam is. Like, you're getting everything out of it.
Yep. And what I really liked, I was shooting the Silverback for the better part of last year. It's Dudley's back tension release, and that one works off of the poundage on once your bow's in the valley at let off. So what I liked about having the 80, 85, and 90 is I could play with the sensitivity of that release just with that. I didn't have to mess with the internal mechanism of the release, which was just kind of nice. And you can kind of fine tune your draw length a little bit with that let off module too, because it does add or take away. Nothing major. I think it's maybe an eighth of an inch or a quarter inch max. But
right.
I did like that a lot. But yeah, I should have messed with that on the Hoyt to see what impact that made.
So I want to go over Matthews, and you've shot and tested the Matthews this year currently?
I did. And so So this is my Matthews spiel. So the Halon, right? They crushed it. The Triax, I think they just rolled over everybody. And here's the thing with Matthews, they make a great boat, they make a great product. They've got a couple of things dialed in more than everybody else. For one, they've figured out marketing in the digital age better than anybody else. So when their verdicts came out and they had their proving ground video, I mean, they sold me on that. I bought a verdicts, right? I ordered one as soon as I saw that video.
Huh.
They've done such a good job of creating that community atmosphere, and they get their content creators bows ahead of time, so they have a whole bank full of promo stuff for the day the boat drops, and everybody's watching those videos and everybody's pumped. And then what does everybody do? You go to the bow shop. Matthews does a great job of making sure their shops have their bows day of launch, and you go and everybody test bows the same way, right? You blank bail at 5 yards. And the thing Matthews has that better than anybody else does right now is they're so dead in the hand and so quiet that it's almost overwhelming. Like, you don't pay attention to, if you're not accustomed to shooting a lot of different bows, that's all you notice. You're like, I don't want to shoot anything else but this, because you're not really paying attention to grip or balance or valley, because again, you're just blank bailing at 5 yards. So it's been very successful for them, like having that type of system. And I think rightfully so, right? Like, they definitely set the bar in terms of like quiet speed. For me, what I found over time that I didn't love when I had the verdicts, and I've set up more Matthews and I've shot more Matthews than probably any other company, honestly, because I just know a lot of Matthews guys. But for me personally, what I didn't love about it was the grip was just a bit too skinny, and the balance point, I found that when the things that go for me first when I'm tired or in a stressful situation is my hands tense up. So when I was torquing the Matthews, just the balance point of that bow and the skinny grip, I would miss real bad with that bow, where I wouldn't have that same situation with some of the other brands. So, and for me, the valley on the Matthews is just a little short on certain angles. I just feel like that string wants to pull away from me a little bit. And I put a decent amount of arrows through my bow. So like, for me personally, like, that bow just feels very different from the other bows, and it's just not for me, but it's a great bow. The V3, I got ripped on for saying this, and then I was so happy when you came out with your video because you said the same thing I did. But I was like, guys, like, they called it the V3. They know it's the third version.
Yeah.
Yeah, they named it that. I didn't name it that.
Yeah.
They named it that. It's, for all the changes they made, and they did make changes, and the bow did hold a little steadier, but at the end of the day, it was still a verdicts to me. It still felt like a verdicts. It still shot like a verdicts. I didn't notice less. The bow already had no vibration. So, 20% less of nothing is still nothing. I just, I think if you love Matthews and, you're a Matthews guy, the V3 is the best version of everything Matthews has put out for the last couple of years. But if you didn't love the verdicts and you didn't love the VXR, nothing about the V3 is going to now sell you. That's just my opinion on it.
My opinion on it is very similar. Since the Halon, they came out with that platform that just kicked the crap out of Hoyt up and down one side, because I think they were still riding the Defiant series back then. I might be wrong. There might have been something different. And to me, I just didn't like the Defiants. I don't know. I just didn't like them. They didn't feel good on the shot. You couldn't shoot them as very good. The Halon, as soon as I picked that up, I picked up the slow cam, and I'm like, nah, the HTR is pretty damn slow, like 10 feet per second slower than might have been more than that back when the HTX, or might have been, was it the HTX or the HTR? I don't know. They were both slow. And the Hoyt was out, or the Halon was out. And I'm like, man, this thing's a little stiffer than I'm used to, but I definitely like what I'm getting out of it, because back then I was chasing speed a little bit. And I'm like, it's heavier than the Hubs of Hell, and that's, I think, was like a 4.54 pounds or something. I'm reaching way back, but off the top of my head, I think it was 4.54 pounds or something like that.
And it felt every bit of it.
It did. It did. And lugging that thing around, we hunted way back in Eastern Oregon mountains, in some wilderness, and I'm just like, God damn, this thing's heavy. Like, I'm like, I've never had that thought while hunting before, carrying a bow. I'm like, I'm just carrying it, and then when I held my buddy Mitch's bow and he had the chill, I'm like, God damn, my bow is heavy, dude. Your Chill R is way lighter than my bow. I'm like, I want to carry yours for a little bit. Screw this, like this is dumb. And so I I shot that bow, but I shot that bow amazing. I shot that bow better than any other bow I had shot at that point, and I'll specify that at that point. However, it was really freaking heavy, and since they came out with that bow, they've been riding that platform because that's when they came out with the cross-centric cam, I believe, is the Halon. Then they had the 32. Then you had the smaller Halon. I don't know what was it the Triax? I don't know. Then the Vertex.
Yeah, the Triax I think was the next one. That was that was when they had the 28, and that was when they introduced the dampener just on the bottom in the forward position.
Yeah, and then the Vertex, and now you have the V3, and so. They've just been making these incremental changes. And, the bows have been getting slightly better. But I just want to see something else. Like, we've been shooting almost the same bow for 3 years now. And it's just no one's pushed them to come out with something different because they landed in such a good position with the Halon and then tweaked that a little bit. And now – they've really no one's pushed them. They've been kicking the crap out of everybody. And I don't know what the sales have been. I don't know what, market share has been. But I can tell you as far as speeds and shootability on the shot, feeling, vibration, sound, they've been on the top pretty much every year as a tester. And somebody that, me personally, I want to see them build a carbon bow. And I've been tired of it. I already ripped on carbon a little bit this episode. But I want to see them build a carbon bow. And I don't think they ever will. Because guys that hunt in tree stands don't need carbon bows, and they don't pack them around the woods all day long, unless you're going back to that warm to the touch feeling. But a lot of those guys are wearing gloves, and I don't know, man. I don't think they're going to come out with a carbon bow. I've been thinking that the last 2 or 3 years that they would. I think they would absolutely kill the market with a carbon bow. I think there's room for them, and if they did it and they came out with one that's like 4 pounds or 3.8 pounds. And you made it feel like your current platforms, I think they would knock it out of the freaking park, and I think they'd kick the shit out of the RX5s. Honestly, I
agree. Yeah, I don't know. I'm with you. I don't think they'll ever go to the carbon. That just doesn't sound like, but who knows? Other companies, yeah. I know in my shop, they move a lot of Matthews. They've had some difficulty moving Hoyts, but they've been moving more PSCs and Bowtechs now. And they actually just started dealing in primes again. But the Matthews have been a big seller here on the East Coast. And I think for that the quietness, the vibration free, I think all of that stuff, right? Like tree stand hunters love comfortable stuff. They don't. It's so funny because I always have this debate. Like they hate putting back bars on there because they think it's going to get in the way. It's like you guys aren't going anywhere. Right. Like we're walking 100 yards to the stand. Like what are you worried? Like right. The extra weight. I'm not really sure where they kind of go from here because, like you said, I don't think they really have an incentive. I think Hoyt kind of had a false sense of security the last couple of years, whereas I think Matthews has really earned that sense of security probably where they're at because, they have the most hype every year, really. And, they have a ton of guys on their pro staff and they're bringing on more, I'm sure, signing over Chris B last year did wonders for him with the younger market too. Like, I think they're making smart moves. So it's, and it seems like diehard Matthews guys weren't disappointed with the V3 from what I've heard either. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. But yeah, I like the bow. Just of the bows, I'm with you. I don't think I would have picked that one this year.
I didn't, just because they didn't make enough changes, man. And yeah. I just feel like if you up the price, because a couple of years I think they upped the price $100, yep. And it's like, okay, yep. Well, you better have $100 extra in benefit, because that's just the basically, and in my opinion, and maybe material costs went up and everything is cost more over time, but I'm like, I just didn't see the $100 worth of extra benefit, because it's basically just a regurgitated bow. And if anybody from Matthews, Colt has a problem with that, talk to Matthews, because they're calling it the V3, man. And you already brought that up. They're calling it the V3. Talk to their own marketing, brand naming guys, because they're owning that shit. It's basically and even in their ads, small incremental changes can make a big difference. A longer riser. Its stability is a longer riser. Well, what happened to the wider limbs, you know, like, and little did we know it's always been the riser. It's like, okay, so were you guys full of shit the last few years? Or is this on top of the limbs? Like, what's going on here? I just, the marketing, man, I don't know. If you pay attention, you can really see the subtle, I don't know, the subtle BS things that people are, and like we said, Hoyt's the worst at it. I mean, they really are. Hoyt is proprietary everything and brand new technology. But PSC or Matthew, they all do it. But Matthews, you know, they're a little bit more honest. You know, small incremental changes, very very same platform, but we did this and that, and you know, to give them credit, the switch weights was a good move.
Yep.
You know, that was a good move a few years ago, and you know, not to go back to Hoyt, but the rest on the front, I thought that was kind of interesting. And since they came out with the integrated rest, I'm like, we have to be able to do that with the sight somehow, because if you could do that with the sight somehow, you can suck the stab in closer, or you can suck the quiver in closer, maybe get a little bit more stability on the shot. I don't know. You know, something that would have to have some sort of impact on the bow and the way that it aims. And I'm totally down to try and test that out when they come out. And until Black Gold or you know, Spot Hog comes out with one, I'll wait. But unless there's another brand that just comes out with a good sight. But I just, you know, I'm really curious to see what impact that does. And another thing is the lower stabilizer bracket. I think back when PSC did that, was it last year or the year before that? I forget. They had that lower stabilizer. Was it last year? That changed the way that the bow felt and aimed for me.
Agreed.
Agreed. It was better. And I just
people asked if I would choose the NTN or the normal one, and I've repeatedly chose the normal NXT just because of that lower stabilizer mount. Like, being totally honest, like it really did make that much of a difference in my opinion.
Yeah, I loved it. As soon as Corey was really excited to show me that when he came to the shop. And he's like, just screw it on the lower stabilizer mount. And I'm like, all right. And so I aimed it at 20 yards. I'm like, this immediately feels better. And I want to get into something here, and I kind of touched on this in my YouTube video here, with people copying people and everybody kind of taking each other's ideas and making it their own. We're seeing that a lot, the weight distribution in the bows and the way that the risers look. And the way that the bow, like you said, the balance of the bow just feels different. In my opinion, the Synergy kind of changed that. Where are you seeing that come from, and what's your thoughts on that?
So Prime, the last couple of years, Prime's been up there in my favorite bows every year, right? This year was actually the first year that I think they kind of slid back a little bit for me. The Primes, I love the Primes. I think, you know, people complain about their noise and vibration without understanding the trade-off. Prime has the most stiff riser in the industry. It does not, I mean, they have the least flex, the least torque. It just is what it is. Like, whether, you know, you believe the 82X material from Italy, if you tell me anything's made in Italy, it's immediately sexier to me. Right. But the bows just have less flex. Now, with that stability, with that stiffness, you're going to get more vibration, right? Like, one comes with the other, unless they can find some other way to disperse that. That's why, you know, the Matthews has a little more flex. That's part of the reason. I'm sure, I'm not an engineer, but I'm sure that's why it's more dead in the hand. So the Prime, to me, you know, I love their risers. I love their new grip. I think their new grip is awesome. You know, the hard thing was we shot it alongside the V3, and it did have a lot more vibration, which I don't think people make way too much out of vibration. You know, target bows vibrate, and it doesn't stop guys from shooting 900 rounds. I think, you know, people make way too big of a deal of that. But for me, the draw cycle felt a little more awkward than years past. There was kind of like it was like easy and then difficult, and then you really kind of dump into the back. But once you're there, I think Prime has the most stable bow at full draw out of everybody. You know, if you want to give Matthews the title for least vibration and quietest bow, I think you've got to give Prime the title for most stable bow at full draw. It just, you're locked back there and you feel like you could hang out all day. It's just very, very comfortable there. The only reason I say it backslid isn't because the bow is worse. it's just because to me, I'm just a little more interested in some of the changes the other brands have made a little more than the Prime this year. But I think it's an awesome bow. Like they've done a great job with it.
Unfortunately, that's one of the brands I haven't got to shoot, and my beginnings with Prime are a little frustrating on my end because I bought the Synergy the first year it came out. I was sold on it. I fell for the marketing. I went down to Southern Oregon Archery here. Scott set one up for me. He actually set up a Rise, and the Rise was a really nice bow. And then he set up the Synergy, and just the way that they sold it, that you aim 40% better or whatever it was. I'm like, man, if I'm 40% steadier, that would mean something to me. And I was shooting the Halon at that time. And long story short, shot it. And I started shooting some 3D shoots, and my scores went through the roof shooting that bow. I could just hold on that ring right where I wanted to, and just it was easy. It was like I almost felt like I was cheating because I was too stable, right? Like I fell for it. And I say I fell for it, but I was truly a better shot with it. I was shooting, my scores all went up, Cascadian Bowman, 3D shoots. If I wanted to, I was competitive in any of those shoots with that hunting bow. I was absolutely killing it. And then I started having issue after issue after issue with it. I think I had 6 different issues with that bow. And then basically they did nothing for me and told me to, whatever, fine, like good luck. Like, well,
yeah.
And so I've had a little bit of a hiccup against Prime for that reason. And I know, you buy, you never want to buy usually like the first year engine or a car, right? And that was probably them working out the kinks. I heard some Primes. My first experience with Prime, I was shooting at a 3D shoot up in, I think, Lebanon, and this guy kept shooting this bow like 2 targets behind us. So he's like 120 yards away. And you just heard this whang, 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 whang. I'm like, what in the hell is that? It sounded like somebody was hitting a tuning fork against a baseball bat. I'm like, what in the hell is that? I mean, it was loud, and it was his bow. And it was that they hadn't had they had some issues with the tuning fork noise, I think is what people called it. And I don't know if you're familiar with it at all, but
yes, no, I remember there was even their hunting bow had a distinct. It was like a really lame like doink noise.
Oh
like
man,
back in the day.
This you could hear it from over 100 yards away. It was loud, and I'm like, I'm never buying that bow. And then I'm like, I'll be damned. And it turned out, I think their riser was just a little too stiff. It actually resonated like a sound, and they didn't have dampeners on their strings in the right spots yet. And so they put those on there, and I think they made a few other changes. But long story short, they're still kind of in that growing phase and had some growing pains. And now it just for me, my buddy hates making strings on them because they have so many pieces to the strings. And it's like, if they could figure that out and go to like a regular, whatever, a 3-piece string set or whatever it would be, get away from making 5 to 7 piece strings. And what are they at right now? 5 or 7 or
7?
7.
Which is a lot. I know some string manufacturers. I do some work with Bloodline Fibers, and I know some string manufacturers that just won't build primes.
Yeah, my buddy's like, dude, get rid of that freaking thing because I hate building strings for it. I'm like, and I'm like, all right. And then the bow shop here, before they started carrying them, I won't use names because they carry them and they're the best thing since sliced bread now. But they started carrying them, and they did not even want to touch my bow before they even carried them because they had never worked on one. I was one of the only guys in the whole area to have a Synergy, and they just thought it was the biggest piece of shit they'd ever seen come in the shop. I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you, and I need this thing tuned. And I ended up shooting it like 1 inch and 3/8 or 1 1/4 inches outside of center shot. I mean, I was like aiming over here. My arrow was like over here, man. It was bad, but I could shoot 6 different broadheads on my setup, and they would all pound out at like 60 yards. I'm like, something's going on here. Like they got something they haven't figured out yet. But I think they've come a long ways, and I have some buddies that shoot them, and they love them. They love them.
Yep.
And I can't get anybody to tune these things around here, and I can't get the support I need from Prime to shoot them yet.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to work on them. I've only shot other people's, so I can't speak too much to that. But I really enjoyed shooting them when I've gotten the chance to. The guys that I know that own them love them. and they tend to hang on to them for a long time. And what's interesting, they don't Matthews guys, Hoyt guys, they tend to get really excited to buy the new bow every year. It seems like prime guys hold on to their bows for years. Like I shoot at I'll shoot 3D at the local range, and guys will still have their primes from 5 years ago, and they just don't see a reason up. Or if they do, they'll buy the one that's still 3 years old. Like they don't buy the new one. It's kind of a different. I don't know if they're all like that or just the ones I know, but and they were kind of quiet this year with their launch. Like it was like, hey, we're coming out with this tomorrow. Like it felt like,
right.
all of a sudden,
right.
That Nexus came out. But yeah, I mean, it's a good bow. I'm with you. I think, like PSC found a way to cut down to 3 strings again. They were at 5. That's something I wish Matthews would also do, because I've had issues with Matthews zebra strings. I've been pretty rough on them in the past. I think Prime, if they could find a way to do that too, and obviously they can because other companies are doing it, I think that would just help them out also. And again, I think with marketing too, they have a lot of really cool shooters like on their team, but I mean, in this day and age, I know it doesn't matter what personalities you have, but it kind of does, because if you don't have someone to educate people on your product, especially when you have such a different product like Prime does, where like those quad cams intimidates a lot of people, and you really need someone technical and passionate to educate people about that. Otherwise, it's a tough sell for a lot of guys.
Yeah. I know me personally, a big factor is that I don't have the support that I need, and I might, now that the shop close to me or an hour away from me sells them now. But again, I had so many freaking issues with it.
Yeah, it's tough.
There's just so many parts to it. I'm like, you know what? Peace out, Girl Scout. Same reason I don't use mechanicals right now. Like, I just don't want something else giving me anxiety when I'm in the woods, that in order for this to work, it doesn't have to fail. Like, it has to not fail. And my buddy, when I was hunting with that thing, he just wanted to chuck it in the woods, man. He's like, you've been fighting that thing since you bought it? I was having shit fly off my bow during league. I was like, what the hell? I had an E-clip fall off one of the posts or one of the axles. It had an E-clip just pop off, and it was the end of it. It was like this black top hat looking part that goes on to the end. It's like a pressed piece. That fell off. And then I told him, like, well, we've never had that. I'm like, well, you have now, man. Like, is this thing even safe to shoot with that on there? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I traded it for a gun, and it was the best trade I ever did. It was worth like $550, and it was less than a year old here. The resale value around here is horrible for them. And I ended up trading it to a guy for like a brand new Browning high grade octagon barrel 300 Winchester short mag for like a $1,500 gun, dude. And he traded it brand new, and I don't think he was in it very much. But anyways, I sent him literally arrows, release, sight, everything. He's like, I want plug and play, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm your draw length. Here you go. Right now, it's shooting any broadhead. Right now, I've shot. It's out to 100 yards. It's good. And he ended up sending me like a picture of a giant whitetail like 2 weeks later. I was like, that's pretty sick.
Okay, so that was a good trade.
It was a good trade for him, and I still have not shot that gun, and it's like one of the prettiest guns I own. But so Bowtech, I want to get into the Bowtechs here, and and what other brands have you shot? Have you shot the Elites or the Expeditions or anything like that?
No, so the Expeditions, I've heard a lot of things, haven't gotten a chance to shoot them. There's nobody in the area. I reached out to him to see if like do you guys have a rep passing through at any point in time kind of deal? Like, because a lot of people have been asking about them. I think it's intriguing. I'm always skeptical of stats for companies that are like kind of newer. I think we all kind of saw that with Obsession when they were claiming 360 a few years ago. Yeah. So, I've got to shoot it and see what it's like real world, because there's a lot of companies that put out fast bows that nobody wants to shoot. So it's but everybody that like reputable people that I've talked to, I've been impressed with the Expedition. So I think I got to shoot one. I can't really say. I'd like to. And then Elite, I have a weird thing with Elite. Like I like the bows. I don't love working on them, but I like the Elite bows. They're very smooth. They tend to be on the slower side, right? But they're shooters. Like, they feel great, very forgiving. But this is such a superficial thing, but they just don't excite me. Like, I don't know what it is, but like You walk into a bow shop, I will walk right by the elites. Like they just don't. There's nothing about them that draws me in. And like I hate to say that because I'm sure there's great people at the company and stuff, but there's just there's just something missing there. There's like if I'm going to spend $11 or now $1,200, right? That's what most bows are going for now. Like I want to look at that thing, like I want to have it next to my TV and be staring at it, like and just like be excited to go shoot it. Like that's like a thing for me. I feel that way about all of my gear, and I just don't. I don't know what it is. They just haven't drawn me in. Even the last couple of bows, they shoot nice, but if it was I wouldn't put my money into one. And that's
same here. It's really weird that you and I both feel the same, because with the option series, I'm like, fuck, these things are stiff, man. Like I hated the draw on it. And the thing that really churned my head, last thing that came to Hoyt, was the draw change increments. I'm like, they went to quarter inch.
Yep.
And I'm like, money. I love that. I love that idea, because not always do I want to be screwing with my D loop. Sometimes I just want to get that little extra feeling of maybe a shorter. I just want to play with it, And I think if more bow manufacturers could hook onto that right there, that would be really, really money for a lot of manufacturers. And that's something that's not patented. You can't the way that they do the draw, adjustments, but having quarter inch adjustments isn't patented. I don't know if you can patent that. I
don't know how that works. I don't think so. I don't remember them kind of like,
because you can't patent having a 70-pound bow, right? You can't
that's
patent
true.
80% let off. So
yeah,
why has no one else done that? It doesn't make sense to me. And I know that some of the let off on some of the bows, they'd be like, oh, well, if you change like the let off on the PSC or the primes, then yeah, that'll change your draw length slightly, and I'm like, okay, but what if you don't want to have to change your let off, or what if you don't want to have to, like you're I don't know. And that's another thing I didn't like about my prime is that I was trying to find where on that slide, the let off slide, because that's basically your draw stop. I didn't really like that. I didn't like how that worked. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but.
Well, and that was one of the things with the Elite, like everything, especially now, like all the bows have wider limbs, bigger riser, like everything's a little beefier, and the Elite still feels very like dainty. And I know it's not, right? But it just feels that way. Like it's not a tough feeling bow. Like it doesn't make me want to go kill something. Like it's just like, and their cable, the limb stop that they have is kind of like that little thing that just drops off the back of the limb. Like it doesn't actually stop on the limb or the cable. It's just kind of like, I know it works. It's just like, you're just a little off the mark. It's like that one friend that's always just like can never seal the deal, and you're like pulling for them, but like they just always are a little off,
Shout out to Anthony. You'll probably call me about that one.
But yeah, I mean, I want to like the Elites, but again, I just couldn't bring myself to get one. Expedition, I don't know. And that's like guys asking me about the Bears too. And with Bear, it's one of those things where it's like you look at them, and on paper, yeah, they look like they should stack up with everybody else. But then when you see it in person, the grip, the finishes, everything, it just is not the same level as everybody else. It's just not.
I almost look at them actually like less than Elite, and I'm just not interested. I don't like. To me, they've made themselves like the beginner, cheap, lower end bow. Like they're like the Honda Civic of the archery,
which was okay when they were cheaper and when there weren't as many great mid price point bows. Now, right? Like
that's a good point.
Why? Like now you have the Embark, the Drive, and the Hoyt Torex, especially the XT model. Those are, and I think Matthews has one too. Those are really good bows for $600-700. Like legit.
Yeah, you have the Nitrix, the Amplify.
That's right.
The Medalist. That was a great bow through. That might have been a Diamond Medalist. Yeah. That was a really good shooting bow. I mean, I bought one of those for indoors, just to shoot it for indoors, just to learn a little bit. And there's way too many good options for midline, and I think PSC is probably killing it the best out of all them. But there's way too many good mid-level bows, and it all probably started back with the Hoyt Power Max or the Charger.
Yep,
the Charger was a really good bow. That was one of
Yep.
I think they fucked up with that bow because they made that bow way too good for the money, and I think it prevented people from not buying the flagship because I know a lot of guys that still shoot, or if they can find one, a Charger. And those things, I know that they had good aluminum pockets, and in the Power Max, they dumbed down the limb pockets on them. They made them like a cheap polymer versus the actual aluminum. I'm like, that was a good bow.
Yeah, and I wonder about the polymer pockets because like they're starting to make guns out of polymer, right? So like I got to imagine the technology's getting there. If they can make it as durable but save weight, I'm cool with it. Like that doesn't bother me. But again, like nobody's advertising the toughness of their polymer, so like I think that's what kind of makes everybody a little nervous.
Well,
but
at the same time though, how many failures have you seen?
That's a good point. Nobody's messaged me. More guys have messaged me about flagship bows than price point bows.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing PSE's got going for them now that we're talking about mid price point bows, because like they've got their low price point bows in every box store. They've got the mid price point bows, right? That I mean they're handing them out to, I think all the guys at Black Rifle Coffee just got those new embarks and like custom colors. And then so they've kind of got your gateway drug, your mid price point bow, and now your high level. I think they're making good moves. I think Hoyt has been doing a really good job with that too. I think honestly that Torex XT is a more intriguing bow to me than even some of their flagship bows for the price point that it's at.
Yeah, well, I told you when they came out with the Nitrix, I'm like, I like this bow better than any of the other bows that they have out here. And the price is better. I'm like, why wouldn't you buy that $700 bow when literally I don't think if you put both bows in my hand, I might be able to pick the difference between the Nitrix and the Nitrax or whatever those two bows were. Like they were pretty darn close. I would say they were within 10% quality, performance, and everything.
I think, like Hoyt and Matthews, typically they'll take off the split yokes and they'll drop like the roller guard will be, maybe they won't do a roller guard. Maybe they'll do like the old bar with the slider on it. Right.
Yep.
Which is always my gripe when companies come out with quote unquote female bows too. Right. Like they always just put pink on it and then strip the features and call it a girl's bow, which I think is like the most degrading thing. And I can't believe no one's complained about it. Like there's nothing about how women shoot that make it different than how guys shoot. But like they like to advertise it like it's something different.
Well, look
it's
at that,
very
look at the Matthews Avail. That was a pretty legit bow. And
definitely legit.
Yeah, and I have a friend. She hunts Shelby. She was still using an SDX. And that bow's a freaking pound. I mean, that thing.
Well, I've talking to a couple of girls at the shop by me. They love the new Prima that came out, and I know like for Hoyt shooters, I know they have like female specific bows, but I think most women that I know that are like hardcore hunters, years past they were just buying Red Works because it's lighter, and they were like if they had the money and they didn't care, like they were getting the carbon bows because it's lighter and they're getting the top of the line bow as long as they could pull. I think 50 pounds was the minimum draw line or the minimum weight that they had. That's what they were getting.
Yeah.
And those were like the real serious, just like anybody else, right? Like, but there's nothing that like talking to, because I talked to different women, like, what do you guys like actually care? Like what? And most of them are like, we just want a good bow. But it's I'm psyched about the mid price point bows because for years like when guys would reach out to you that like just wanted to get into archery, you kind of had to break the news to them like, look, you could get a bow for $500.
Yeah.
But you're gonna want a new one in a year, like if you get into this kind of deal. I know you did a budget bow build last year, which was awesome.
Kind of blew up in my face.
It was an effort.
BTX was a bad choice.
It was a bold move when you made that pick. I was like, okay, interesting. He's really rolling the dice on that. But I knew you had done your research.
Well, if I would have known more what the odds were, I probably wouldn't have bought it. I knew that they had issues, but I didn't know it was that bad. Like even Bowtech, I won't say who, but there's a guy I know that works for Bowtech. He's like, yeah, man, it's more than you think. It's more than 25%. Most of those bows had limb issues. That BTX model you bought. He's like, and I think it's on its 4th set of limbs now.
And I think that's when I think the issue they had is when they put the production overseas, right? That's what it was. And then they brought it back it was something along those lines, if I remember.
They went to a limb manufacturer, I believe, and now they're back to being in-house solid core limbs.
Yeah.
I might be wrong on that. So one of my buddies that works for Bowtech, let me know. But they said, the T34s, I think is what it was called. That's a solid limb, and the one before that was supposed to be a solid limb, but that one lasted, I think, a month. And then this one has lasted a good, and I think it's the T34, and he's like, you won't have an issue with this one. But I don't trust it enough to where now it's my bow fishing setup, and I literally will not sell it because I don't want to sell somebody a grenade. I don't want to do it.
I would not either. So there's nothing worse than selling someone a bow and them having something go wrong with it.
I will say that Bowtech around here locally, especially locally, they really take care of us. I mean, I didn't have to pay for one of my limbs. I didn't have to pay for them, and I told them, like, I bought this used, but I know you guys have fixed dry fired bows before, and what can you do for me? And they're like, we'll take care of you. And I came in, and then the last time I came in, I was needing it tuned or something like that, or needing something. I forget what it was. And Dan looks at me, and he's like, dude, is that? I'm like, I'm not here for that. I swear. He's like, oh God. I was like, all right. What do you want? But he just looked at me because I had that BTX in my hand. He's like, dude. He's like, not again. Nope, not doing it. I'm like, don't worry. I'm only here for bow fishing shit. So
yeah,
but
that's great.
So with the elites and the expeditions, I haven't shot any of those. I keep hearing stuff about the Athens. I think they recently, I don't know how recent, but they got bought out, or they have a new owner or something like that, or there's new leadership there, and so they just don't have very many dealers, man. And I guess I'm venting here because a lot of these bows, like I don't have access to these bows, and maybe I need to get a little bit more ground savvy and start reaching out to these companies and like, hey, you guys need to send me some, because right now I can tell you, my man Corey Miller, awesome dude, is slinging PSEs like crack. Like, he is out there working the streets, getting PSEs in people's hands. He sent me some PSEs down here. That's, and I appreciate the hell out of that. He's the only person out of any bow manufacturer, any rep, that's ever offered to do that for me without me asking. And
same thing here. PSE sent me that expedite, and then they were like, hey, we're going to send you an EVL, just to compare to that. We know you like the expedite. So, and for me, like, I let people know, like, it's hard. When we do these reviews too, it's hard, like, especially the types of videos I do, it's hard for me to, not make those cooler just because I have more experience and time with the bows. Like, I when you have somebody with the company that you can talk to about, like, hey, why did you guys design this that way? Right? Like, why did you guys do this? You can talk about it more and answer questions better than, a lot of times I'm doing the same thing everybody else out there is doing, and you're just going, you're blank bailing at your local shop, which I love my local shop, but there's only unless there happens to be a rep in there's only so much information you can get on a new bow when you do that.
Right. Well, do you ever have a hard time giving maybe a bad review for a bow that somebody gave you for free or let you try out for free?
The cool thing with, and this is with any of the companies I'm affiliated with, is first off, I have no contracts with anybody. And the other thing is, they were all companies that I was already using and a fan of the product. And nobody has ever told me, like, we want you to cover this or highlight this or do this. Because that's not, like, I have a 9-to-5 job in compliance. Like, I have to do the whole suit and tie bullshit thing all day long. Like, Knights of the Apex for me is my fun, passion thing. Like, I want to be able to be me, be honest, like, be ridiculous. Like, I'm not in this to get free shit and suck dick. Like, that's just not what that's not what I'm going to do after hours. So, I don't feel an obligation to give a positive review for stuff I get for free. I do feel an obligation to not give completely negative reviews. Like, there's a lot of gear, a lot of stuff that I use that I just don't ever talk about because it's something that I would never use other than what I did for testing. Because there's somebody that made that product, there's somebody that put their heart and soul into it, or they didn't. But if I don't have something nice to say about like, and it's funny because like I'll praise a bow for an entire 20-minute video, but I'll have one critique, and that's what people hang on to, So it's as the page has grown in a following, that's something that I've really taken to heart, like because I know the impact it can have. So if I am going to have a critique about something, like I want to make sure it's as thought out as I can be, and I'm being honest about it. So I don't the whole free thing, like it's cool at first, but like people think that, oh, you sell out for this. You get over it really quick, like it's cool. But at the end of the day, like people who want to be pro staffers and get free stuff and stuff, if you put the amount of time that into your normal job that I put into Knights of the Apex, I guarantee you'll get promoted to a point where the free shit won't matter. You'll be able to pay for it yourself anyway. Right. So it's, it's like it's nice, but like, yeah, like I can get most of my stuff from Easton, but I buy Easton anyway, because we were talking about in-house manufacturing. To me, it makes a big difference with things because their quality control is just different. It just is. So, like I think, it's important. And I always tell people, like in my videos, like this is my relationship to the company. This is the interactions I've had with them. That way they know, and then they can make their own call whether or not I'm being biased. So, because at the end of the day, like, you start building relationships with these people. I think the relationships with the people definitely mean more to me than the free shit. It just is what it is. Like, I'm going to, whether somebody sends me a bow or not, like I'm probably going to want to buy a new bow every year anyway. So like, I like PSE, they send me one, it's easy. If any of the other manufacturers send me one to test, I give them a fair shake too, but I'd be able to give them more time behind the bow to give them probably a more fair shake than just the, blank bailing at 5 yards kind of deal. So.
Right. Well, that's one thing that, I was texting him before the podcast, Brandon McDonald, shout out to him.
Yeah.
He went out in that one video that I think kind of launched him was I bought 4 or 5 bows with my own money, and here's what I think, and I think we need more of that, really. We don't need guys going out and spending $5,000 on bows that's not what I'm saying, but guys that are willing to put skin in the game. And I think people would be shocked at how much product I don't get for free. Like, that I don't get for free.
Same here.
And
Easton, I am tighter with than anybody. I still buy a lot of stuff just because, like, I respect the guys there, and I never want to overstep like that really. But also, like I know guys that are like at the top of kind of this game, and they still buy a lot of their stuff for free. Like, I think people have kind of probably an inflated perception of like how much money and how much free stuff everybody's getting.
Right. Well, we'll put it this way. Like I've always heard, especially with like Wayne, he's a buddy of mine who used to do taxidermy, and I never asked for a deal. And it's kind of like, if you've ever been in sales, you're going to understand this. If you have somebody that's wanting to shop from you and they're a friend, they should want to pay you a good chunk of money so you can make a good chunk of money, right? I mean, if you're in a market where your commission's like 0.5% on something that's $20,000, okay, I understand. Let's chop some down off of there for you, because I'm not making dick off of this thing. But taxidermy is his bread and butter. Like, I understand that. Arrows, there's actually a lot of markup in arrows. There's a lot of markup in them, right? I mean, you can double your money if you're a shop on arrows, and so on some of these arrows, and so if you're not willing to spend the money, then what's that say about you as a friend? If you really are a friend of these companies, I spend money through Easton, even though I don't know if I could get free stuff through them. I still spend money through them, but I've never felt the need to ask, and I have very, very rarely have I can't remember the last time I asked for something free. I can't think of a time. Companies are usually getting a hold of me, and it's broadhead companies, because there's so goddamn many of them.
Well, there's
I wish bow companies did that. It would save me a fortune.
I don't kill enough stuff for broadhead. No, I've been with Sever, which they're a subsidiary of Easton.
Yeah.
And they started when I did, and we just kind of linked up. But yeah, same here. I've never reached out and had that relationship go anywhere where like because here's the thing, like, because every now and then, like I'll do a takeover and stuff like that. These companies, they're getting people hitting them up for free shit all the time, and everybody's got the same pitch, and it's just companies have to see, you have to bring some sort of value to them, right? Like that's kind of how a lot of these guys that are pro staffers, or like, which that whole model is even changing too. But like the guys that like Cameron Haynes he does the same thing every single day. You know what I mean? Like, and he loves his stuff, and he talks about it all the time. And like that's his value to a company. Like for me, I have a gear page. I take cool photos of gear. Companies can use that for their own social media marketing, right? Like that's, if I like it, like I talk about the stuff I like all the time. I get to mess with like a decent amount of stuff now, but I've never like reached out to a company. I've just bought stuff that I liked, or somehow like I won a bunch of Iron Will broadheads, like in a raffle, like a social media raffle kind of deal. Which I was like, oh, people actually win these things. And then now I'm doing raffles of my own. But yeah, like I think people, they have a weird perception of that whole thing. And I'm with you. I've never had a relationship, go anywhere through that. Like it's always companies reaching out, or like I know the people, and then maybe they go to a company, something like that. But it's always organic. It's when people ask you like, how do you get stuff? It's kind of like asking you like, how did you meet your wife, right? Like it's usually like an organic kind of relationship. Yeah. There's a mutual respect there, and it just kind of grows. And then, sometimes, but I'm like you, I have some people where like, I don't let them pay for stuff. Like I'm whatever, what do you want from like, oh no, well, we want to support. No, I would send it to you. Like you guys have done enough for me. I'm not taking your money. And I know there's some companies that are like that with me too. So it's, it's all different. Like there's no, and I think we went way off topic here, but yeah, that's yeah, all this to say, like, I think it's a small industry, and especially at like, you've been doing this for much longer than I have, but as the page grows and as the influence grows, like the weight of that, it's kind of like having a gun, right? Like everybody thinks like you get a gun and you're reckless and you're looking to like go shoot something. Like that's not how I felt. Like when I got my concealed carry permit, I was very much aware of the responsibility that came with that. And I was now all of a sudden like more reserved in like how I drive and like where I go and how I talk to people. So, and that's very much the same responsibility that I see that I have with having a page with, thousands of followers, is like what I say and what I post, and like, how I criticize things is going to influence potentially somebody's livelihood. So right. Like, especially the talking stuff up, if I like something, I like something. And if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. But that's everything. You're going to find someone who doesn't like even the best product. So right. There's nothing you can do about that.
Well, 100%. And I know back when I started and was trying to get just save money so I could buy more gear and pro staff this and pro staff that, and just trying to like just get my hands on as much gear as I could to test out. I was thinking, Dick, I was going out of style, man. I'm like, hey man, I'll shoot this and I'll post about this and I just want to try your product. I need to do this. And it's kind of funny how when I'm like, this is stupid, dude, this isn't who I am. Like, this is gross. Like, I'm not going to take a picture with your product because your product didn't kill that deer. Like, it didn't help me kill that deer. You couldn't literally throw the product at the deer and kill it. Like, I don't know. In scent cover companies, I don't use scent cover. Probably never will. Tried it. I think me personally, it's stupid. And maybe if you're sitting in a tree or blind, I don't know. But now that when you create something and you back off of being that guy, the pro staff guy or the free product guy, it's kind of funny. Like I had a friend who's very successful, and we're talking extremely successful, and he's like, it's kind of funny. Like after you make it, everybody wants to give you free shit. Everybody wants to do stuff for you. Yeah. And I'm not saying you and I have made it. I am not even a tenth of where I want to be. But when you start moving in that direction, the resources start moving towards you. Like, it's just and I'm the same way.
We're being authentic.
Yeah.
I think authenticity, that is the currency more than anything else. Like there's a lot of people that have big followings and, people are quick to point fingers and stuff, but I think people get different value from different people for different things. Right. And I think if you're authentic, that plays itself out over time and people gravitate to you that especially when you're authentically passionate. Like my page, I'm very rarely on it. It's not about me. Like it's, like I don't plan stuff out. Like it's literally like if I'm working on a bow, like my buddy gave me an RX4 to swap out the limbs, put 80-pound limbs on there. Like so that's gonna be like I'm taking pictures as I do it. That's gonna be like what I talk about and what I post for the next week. Like same thing. If I go to the range and shoot, that's what I'm doing. Like it's just so much easier than trying to be some, quote unquote influencer, peddling some product. If Traeger gave me a grill tomorrow, I wouldn't know what to do with it. Like, it's just not my thing, like I love the guys that do it, but like that's their thing. I'm with you on the scent stuff too. Like it's just not a product. I already carry enough crap into the woods with me. I don't need another bottle, so I think that's really important. And I know a lot of guys that are like that, and people ask now, like, how do I get, and I almost try and talk them out of getting into the industry. Cause I'm like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to hunt? Like, do you want to be in the woods, or like, do you want to create content? Do you want this to be your business? And if you want this to be your business, like, what are you bringing to the industry that's not already there? Right. Like unless you're like crazy unique and, you have like some insane personality or sense of humor or something, like, we're all blue collar guys that love to go bow hunting. Like, there's nothing unique about that. No one follows Cam Hanes just because he's a blue collar guy. You follow Cam Hanes, he does the same 3 damn things every single day, right?
Right.
But he's doing it more intense than anyone else on the planet. That's why he has the following that he does. The same thing with you or I. Like, you got on the unbiased review game, and like you're now like a name in that, and you have like a style, and like that's what people come to expect. And like it's so beneficial for the industry. Like it's just beneficial for everybody because they know what they're getting when they come to that, and that's the value that you bring. It's unbiased. These are the numbers. Here's have at it, have your interpretation.
Right.
This is what it is. So
Yeah.
It's interesting, and I like, people rip on social media and stuff, but I think, like, for me, it's been nothing but positive. I've had some of like the coolest relationships and experiences through it. And, I think the industry is trending in a positive direction, not a negative direction. Like, I was at ATA last year, and, for as much shit as influencers get, like, everybody that I, quote unquote internet friends, like, you see each other and you like kind of side eye each other. Like, where do I know? Oh, I follow you. But they were all super cool. Like, we hung out, we had an awesome time. Like, a lot of the bigger personalities that were on TV and stuff, they had egos. It was very weird, it wasn't, so yeah, I really, like, I'm very excited for where things are going and kind of like how stuff's progressing. And I think companies are starting to catch on too. Like, you need people that like actually use the product, or actually passionate about the product, because that if you're not authentic, that's going to come through at some point too. Like, we're all exposed to each other way too much that,
Right.
To hide that. It just is what it is.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point, a good area to start wrapping this thing up, and I'm trying to get to the point where my quality, because I think that I've hindered myself on my channel personally. Not to talk about myself real quick, but low quality, just shoot it, film it, get it out. Like, no special lenses, no lights, no mics, just stock everything, demo version of Adobe Premiere. Like, I still use that today, right? Like,
I use DaVinci because it's a free program.
DaVinci.
Like, yeah.
And I really, just talking to my audience real quick, I'm going to be up in the game on my end. My last couple of videos, the audio's been better. Maybe the video quality's been slightly better, but I'm learning, right? I'm trying to get to where you're at on the video production, because I just love the way it looks. It looks way more professional, and I'm moving that way. Like, right now, there's another guy I know, Corbin's Archery. I don't know if you follow him.
Yeah.
But he's kind of, I was telling my buddy, I'm like, man, his videos are really similar to mine, but they're just higher quality. And he's like, and my buddy's like, he's like you, but Brandon McDonald. He's like, he's kind of in that middle niche area. I'm like, God damn it, that's where I need to be. Like, I don't need to be right there, but I need to be upping my. You guys are all pushing me to up my video productions. What's going on? You guys are like coming.
Well, watching Brandon, and I've talked to Brandon quite a bit, and watching his stuff, I told him, because he talks to me about Instagram stuff, but I talk to him about YouTube stuff. Because watching his videos, like video, I do not enjoy video. Like, it's so humbling when people compliment my videos, but like, you can tell when I phoned in a video and just like cut something together quick. Like, it's pretty rough, but it's it's like archery, right? Like, the biggest thing that helped me was, one, you have a passion for it, but two, like, it's just finding people that know more than you. And now, like, with YouTube, like, you follow a couple of accounts, and through osmosis, kind of like, you pick up little tips here and there, because there's so many guys, like basically the Dudleys of the content world kind of deal. and you start picking up little things here and there. And like you were saying, it's all the little stuff though. Like Corbin doesn't do that much different, but I guarantee you, like, it's maybe just a little way that he uploads it, or a like here, or just a cut there. It's all the little things that really add up. Brandon's videos are very simple, but the quality is, I mean,
Right.
phenomenal.
Right.
He gets ragged on a lot because of his he's got some clickbaity titles, which people get. Oh, they rip. People go into the comments just to rage before even listening to them. But it's also working for him.
Yeah, you know what? But I say I need to up my video production, but then you have the Ranch Fairy, who's about as low quality footage and as you can get, who's exploding on YouTube. So, but he's also got exposure with the hunting public guys and been on a few podcasts and stuff. But I've always said if the information's there, people are going to watch it. But if you make it easy to listen to and fun to watch, then you've got something. And so that guy's got one heck of a personality, and he's very entertaining. If he ever upped his video quality, boy, I think he'd explode even more than he already has. But you don't have to agree with the way he builds arrows or the way he tunes or anything. It's the fact that he's entertaining. He provides a lot of good information for beginners. And he's got a personality that he doubles down on, and you got to respect that. I mean, I respect the hell out of that. I mean, he's like anybody that's been super successful has doubled down on themselves, straight up.
Yep, 100. Yeah, it's not an accident, any of that stuff. And I think you've got to want to do it, right? Like you and I want to up the production quality. Like, you have to want to do it, because no one can force you to do it, because it is an investment in time and effort and sometimes money. But if it pays, it pays. And if and I'm saying that like symbolically, not literally, but it's just one of those things. Like, everyone's got a different threshold. Like, I'm probably not going to have as polished videos as like Cope Creative or some of the other guys like that are working on TV shows, but you like, it's to a point where it's like, it's raw, but it's also like still fun to watch. Like, I think the Born and Raised guys do a great job of that. I think they do an awesome job of mixing it. Like I always, watching like the UA hunt videos and stuff, like I always wish there was more of the behind the scenes stuff, kind of like what the Born and Raised guys do. Because part of it is like, you love the personalities and the people, like you've got to have that blend.
Right. Well, we all have to find our own way, and I'm evolving my content this year, I can tell you that. And I've been super gear oriented, and like I'd say in the last 8 months, I've kind of been going the opposite way of getting into woodsmanship, because for me, I think that the gear's there, the information's there, and if you can't tell when you have your hands on a shit product, then God help you. I don't know. There's a lot of the new products out there. For example, like a Zeus. It's like, man, if you can't look at that thing and just look at it and then really use your brain and just like where could it fail? What materials are they using? Like, if you can't look at a product and kind of break it down, which is, I know I'm bagging against my own content here. What's I want to make people as successful as they can in the woods, right? And I think right now it's putting in the work and doing woodsmanship skills. Like, all the gear and stuff's fine. It's fun to talk about gear and bows and stuff, but I've said this a million times, especially with Greg Poole, like, woodsmanship skills is going to move the bar. And I've said that with Brian Broderick too. It's just, you got to go out there, learn your quarry, work your craft, put in the work, scout, do all this stuff that it should be fun. It should be fun. You're missing half the fun, right? And,
well, you guys are at the next level. I'm trying to get people just to get on that gateway drug of gear. That way, then they're like, okay, well, now let me take this thing into the woods, because I'm basically LARPing. So
well, I can tell you, I get guys that are messaging me. One of the most common questions I get is, will my setup kill an elk? It's like, that's probably one of the most common things I get. It's like, man, like I'm competent, and I know my way around an arrow build and what is good and sufficient. And I can tell you right now, when I was shooting a 415 grain arrow at 265 feet per second, 260 feet per second, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, those animals are just as dead, and I was still picking up the arrow on the other side of the ground. So, I mean, the animals haven't changed, right? The animals are the exact same, and it takes the same amount of momentum, and it takes about the same amount of energy if you're using the same head if you're changing heads and you're using like a mechanical or a Sever, I mean, the Sever is one of the best mechanicals I've tested, period. I mean, I know that you're with Sever, or you know the Sever guys. Dan over there, I think, is who it is, but they're one of the best heads I've tested. But at the same time, it has to deploy. It has to go off. It's just another thing, right? So I don't know. I would use the hell out of them for turkeys and deer and stuff probably, but I've talked to quite a few guys this year and last year that because Oregon finally legalized mechanicals, and there's some elk and deer running around looking like porcupines. It's just
and that's the thing. Like I'm not hunting elk, right? So I don't have to worry about that. For me, one of the best things about those heads is that's one less thing that I have to worry about. Like guys are like, what Sever do you shoot? And I'm like, honestly, all of them, because they all hit consistently for me out of my setups. So I'm running their 125 grain heads. So that's for me. Like I like messing around with a lot of stuff. I don't like messing around with tuning to broadheads. Like that's just because I don't have to. I'm hunting whitetails.
Right.
The biggest thing I'm hunting are hogs, and hogs are one of those animals where like it almost doesn't matter what you hit them with, kind of deal. But as long as it's like decent weight. But they so for me, like that's the other thing. You got to figure out like what's going to give you the most confidence going into the woods, like at the end of the day, or like what setup are you going to feel good with? Because if you can't shoot that crazy heavy FOC arrow accurately, it doesn't matter how deadly it is. Same thing if it's a crazy fast bow. If you can't, if you're pulling crazy poundage and it's a super fast bow, but you can't hit the vitals, it doesn't make a difference.
Right.
Like it's you got to figure out like what do you have confidence in? What do you know is going to work? And some guys are, like that's one of the big reasons I push working on your own setups is like, I know the thresholds of what I can get away with like, say something slightly out of tune. Like, okay, my knocking point is fraying a little bit. A couple of years ago, that would have been in my head the entire day until I got back. Right. Whereas now it's like, no, like I know I'm going to shoot. It's frayed a little bit. That's not going to impact my arrow flight at all. That's why like working on your stuff and getting accustomed to all of those things and sometimes playing with stuff that's a little out of spec or a little this or a little that or different versions of the same stuff. It all comes into play because you build up that knowledge bank and that library, right. and you get that confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what we do, and to like I said, wrap this thing up is I've always said I want to figure out what doesn't work so you don't have to, and I'm going to do it before I hit the field, and so that's all these broadhead tests and all these arrow tests and all these tuning videos I do, arrow tuning videos and stuff like that. I just I've missed that big giant bull that I've always wanted, and it's because of something so stupid and simple. Like I never want you to have to feel that. And it was a D-loop that was sliding on me. And I'm like, if I was on top of my gear, if I was just a little bit better and a little bit more aware, I would have killed that giant 5-point bull. I mean, it was a beautiful bull. And that is seriously what haunts me. I still have, that happened years ago and I'm still pissed about it, but it just, if I can prevent even one person from having to go through that, that's worth it, right?
Yeah.
Like if you can speed up someone's learning curve, saying, man, don't buy that bow because limbs will probably blow up on you. Go with a year newer, and go with the Realm. Don't or go with the Rain or whatever. You won't have to shoot the BTX and find out the hard way. Like I can tell you that now.
And I think too, being able to point people to other people that are expert. Like I get the elk question all the time. And I'm like, look, I've never shot an elk, so I don't know, man. Go like you get a lot of times you can DM the companies and ask them like, and I know for several, like they're real candid about like what works and what doesn't work, so it's, I think that's an important thing too, is like, yeah, I mean, you had me on the podcast, like people might be like, well, they have compete. Like we're not competing. Like we're all, I think there's a good circle of people in the industry where we're all on the same team. We're trying to all grow. And I think there are certain companies, that are catching on to the same thing. Like we could fight over the same pie or we can make a bigger pizza kind of deal. So
exactly.
I think that's really important. I think that's important for all of us to do. Like I love ragging on guys that are high FOC guys, but it's not malicious, right. If that's your thing and you love running it and you want to tune it and you feel confident with it, I am never going to tell you that's not a good setup. It's just not the setup for me. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah. And, I get asked all the time, what do you think is good? Do you think the high FOC? I'm like, happy medium is good, man. He's like, what's happy medium? I'm like, I don't know your setup. Like, I don't know how fast you shoot. I don't know what your draw length is. Happy medium for me is about 450 to 530.
I'm in the same spot. Yes. And I love when guys, like, they'll send me a picture and they'll be like, I have this tear. What's wrong? And I'm like, dude, there are possibly a dozen things that could have happened leading up to that.
Yeah.
For me to answer that question I'm going to try, but
I'm going to break it down into 3 parts. You, the arrow, or the bow. Which one is it?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
All right, man. Well, hey, I'll let you go. And it's later over there where you're at. It's I still have to hit the gym after this and follow through on that man titty post I did. So
yeah, man, get after it, dude. Good luck with all that. Dude, no time. You'll be after it.
I'm sure
you got the motivation.
Months. Yeah, it took me 3 months to gain it. I bet it takes me 3 or 4 to lose it. So I'm not worried about it, but at the same time, I'm worried about it.
just keep thinking about September.
So. Oh man. Just looking at my man titties is enough to keep me motivated. I just I gotta hit the gym again. Man, I hate this. I've never felt this way. But well, AJ, give people a link and a shout out to where they can find you and look you up.
Yeah, sure. So Knights of the Apex on Instagram, that's Knights with a K, and same thing on YouTube. And those are the 2 biggest spots. Probably most active on Instagram. I'm on there all the time. So thanks a lot. It was a pleasure, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun talking to you, and I imagine we'll probably have you back on here, sooner or later this year and revisit after maybe we shoot a few more bows and test a few more things.
Sounds good to me.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you later.
Later.
All right, guys, that's this episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't yet, be sure to check us out on Instagram, On Point with Garrett Weaver. And if you haven't yet, be sure to go onto the YouTube channel. And that is really what funds most of the podcast stuff and all the gear. And that's where I make the money. So there's no ads on this. There's no nothing on this. It's always going to be free if I can help it, and it's always going to be completely unbiased, and that is a big part because YouTube pays, not a lot of money, but a little bit of money to produce content on there, and that's what I use to fund this, buy new mics, and all that stuff. So if you guys can go on there, subscribe if you think it would be something that you could use, and maybe watch an ad every once in a while, because I think that's how we get paid on there, but that would be amazing. And if you can leave a review, if you haven't left a review on iTunes or Spotify or whatever platform you're listening to this on, I know the reviews help, and I know it's super quick and super easy. And if you can do that, that would be amazing. So outside of that, guys, appreciate you for listening, and I'm sure there's going to be another episode coming soon after this. So I'll see you on that one. Bye.